of people with disabilities. It is about helping others understand what I require in spaces where I need services. I have also learned to make informed decisions while advocating for myself. He concludes.
I hope we are still following. We are so quiet in the room. But I hope you can clearly see how persons with disabilities and how different intersections determine how we experience different barriers. So the next story is for Peace Shamala, who is a young woman who is deaf from Kibra. It's also a picture story, so Alan will read it.
All right. Thank you, Joyce. The next story is from Peace Shamala, and it goes like this. There's a reason why, as humans, we are unaware of what will happen in the next second, minute, or hour. If you had that ability, I would have done everything to change the incident that transformed my life from light to darkness within minutes. School had just ended for the day. Like always, I took the same route home, a path I would walked for so many years. Before, when 4 men walked past me, I did not think much of it until they grabbed me. The events that followed remain a blur. I remember being taken to a house, pinned down by one man while the others assaulted me. There was blood. I cried until I had no strength left. When I finally made it home, I tried to tell 2 women what had happened. I used sign language to explain, but they misunderstood me. When I signed man, they assumed I met my foster father. What happened next was a nightmare within a nightmare. A mob attacked him, fueled by misplaced rage, beating him senselessly until the police arrived just in time to save his life. I was taken to the hospital, then to a rescue center. That's when I learned I was pregnant. The realization broke me. At 15, I was carrying a child conceived in violence. But it was a lot at this moment that I was referred to Judy from Talking Hands, Listening Eyes. Advocate. Meeting Judy changed everything. She did not just help me through the pain of labor. She became my friend. She brought my baby clothes, food, soda, bread, chicken, and kindness. She taught me how to breastfeed and reassured me that it wasn't my fault. She held my hand not just in the hospital, but also during the court process that followed. I remember the first time we had to go to court, there was no interpreter, so they had to push the case to a later date. Luckily, Talking Hands, Listening Eyes advocates through Judy stepped in to ensure my voice was heard. Through her advocacy, the truth finally came out. I clarified that my foster father wasn't involved and that 4 unknown men had assaulted me. Because of this, and even though the case dragged from 2022 to 2024, my foster father was able to be released. The DNA test results proved his innocence, but by then, so much damage had been done. My foster father lost his teeth during his time in remand. My younger sister, who witnessed the attack on him, was so traumatized that she later passed away, being sick. The stress broke my mother, especially since she had to bury my sister without my foster father while grappling with being jobless. Our family fell apart under the weight of it all. Though it all, Talking Hands, Listening Eyes advocates stayed by my side. They provided counseling that helped me understand and process my emotions. Slowly, I began to heal. I learned to love my daughter, a child I initially resented because of how she came into this world. My mother became my anchor, helping me care for my daughter and reminding me that my life isn't over. She tells me I can pursue my dreams, that I can live, I can also find love and happiness one day. But challenges remain. As a deaf mother, accessing healthcare and information is difficult. I only rely on people who don't understand. I oftenly rely on people who do not understand sign language, which makes even basic tasks daunting. Talking hands and listening eyes advocates can ensure to educate me about my sexual and reproductive health rights, helping me reclaim my confidence and sense of self-worth. I am tackling each day individually, learning to forgive, to heal, and to hope. With my mother's support and the advocacy of people like Judy, I know that one day everything will be okay.
Thank you, Alan. Before we listen to the next story, Alan will take comments from the audience, and then we will proceed.
All right. Thank you very much, Joyce. Yes. Okay. So what are some of the things that we've picked from these stories? By a show of hands. I am a journalist, so I might pick on you. What are some of the stories that Eric, my good friend, I know you've picked something.
Thank you, Alan Herbert, AH, and we truly thank God for your voice, because it's making even the stories more interesting, specific, and particular. So for me, what I've picked, those are quite intimate stories. What I've got from the stories are the particular issues around that word, SRHR. For me, the story of Kevin actually became stuck naked to me, because I've never thought about those issues in the way he's putting them, because I was telling my colleague here that I actually went to hospital, and sometimes they'll not ask me the questions, but they'll ask my wife, and to me that seemed to me a very normal thing. Then hearing the story from Kevin, I'm like, oh, actually I should be also taking some of these SRHR classes or training or opportunities just to know my rights and my opportunities. And the story of Valerie, the first story also, and as well as the story of Faith in KU, they are really inspiring. The fact that, you know, they are actually talking about real things, what they experience when they go to the hospitals, when they go looking for these services. So for me, those were a particular output I got from the stories. Thank you very much, AH.
All right, a round of applause for Mr. Eric Ngondi.
We have a comment here.
Where?
Here, behind you.
Okay. As he's making his comment, there is something that I want to extrapolate on what Eric has said, that most times we as persons with disabilities, we never even understand that we are being left behind. Because Eric here has admitted that actually he thought he was being done a favor for not being included. Sindio? But indeed, he was being excluded. Sindio? Mr. Paul Butita, I have an initial. Can I call you PB as well?
Let's stick to Paul Butita. Thank you. The Alan Herbert and Joyce. From the story of Kevin, I think that speaks a lot to me, and is something that also experienced during the election period, being a person of a low vision. So many are times that people in professional, maybe some of them do this unknowingly, some I can say maybe because of ignorance, And it does happen, I think, across sometimes, because I can say they believe in substitute decision making instead of now the supportive decision making. So you see, instead of asking the subject what he or she, the service that he or she wants to seek about, they just ask now the supportive person. And I think this is an issue that needs also to be addressed. And as we continue advocating on the rights of persons with disability, let us continue also advocating for supportive decision making, and also educating others about supportive decision making, other than just believing in substitute decision making. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul Butita. And I do not want to make this a male meeting, yeah? I want to hear the voices of the women, the ladies in the room. Katerina Kawanjiku, the team from DICEP. Yeah, DICEP. Okay, do you have something to say about the stories? Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Nancy from Feminist Center in Kibra, and I'm grateful to be here. And thank you for looking for courage. It's such a beautiful voice. I'm in love. I hope it's okay to be in love with your voice, Alan.
All right. All those who had the doubt, now you've had it.
So I think being a woman, especially on matters of SRHR, for even a person like me, it's still a hard subject. It's still a hard topic to talk about, even with the health providers. So I can imagine how hard it is for persons living with disability. I just think that for the first story, it really ended well, because I think she really communicated and she stood up for herself. So I will just urge every person in here, if there's a space that you feel you are left out, it is so important for you to speak out or stand up for yourself. If you can communicate through writing, if it's through sign language, please do. We are here to learn. Sometimes we might go the wrong way, but I'm sure we are in a world where we are learning. We were also brought up in a world that it's really, I'll call it stingy for people with disability, but we are ready to learn and to leave this world a better place. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a last comment here.
Thank you, Alan. What stood out for me is Kevin's story, because for the first time I'm hearing women sharing their sexual and reproductive health concerns or issues. Because most of the time we have listened to women complaining and saying, but and we have been wondering, do men experiences these things that we do? But as Eric says, that they do, but they have normalized that. But for Kevin, it's good because he's saying like it is exclusion, not inclusion.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me give one last one.
After the next story, please, kindly.
We have other stories?
Yes.
Okay. I am still reading.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. We will take the next comments after the next stories. We have 3 more stories, and the next story is a story from Joy Rehema, a young woman with intellectual disabilities. This story illustrates her experience and the role of Kenya Association for Persons with Intellectual Disabilities in advocacy around sexual reproductive health. So it's a video. We all listen.
As women, we realize that we have a lot of barriers when it comes to accessing sexual and reproductive health. And many people do not understand the sexuality around women with disabilities. A number of many people believes women with disabilities are asexual. Like they don't need to have a family, they don't need to get married, they can't love, they cannot be loved. When we go to the facilities, health facilities, there are so many questions that you will be asked. The questions that are not related with what you are presenting, but related to your disability. So once they discover whatever you are seeking is reproductive.
Kwa majina yangu naitwa Joy Rema na mimi ni self advocate kutoka Kai na iko na ulemavu wa akili. Tunasomeshwa hapa Kai mambo ya rights zetu, tuweze kujiongelelea, kupata sauti. Tulifundishwa kuishi peke yetu, sisi ni self advocate, tunaweza kuishi peke yetu, tujikalishe na tupate watoto na tupate bwana. Sisi wasichana tunafaa tukue wasafi, period zimekuja, tuna change, tunaweka kwa karatasi, tunatupa kwa dustbin, alafu tunaonga mwili, tunakuwa wasafi. Tulifundishwa mambo ya kutumia kondo, kutumia hii kondomu ya wasichana na kijana. Tulifundishwa, tuliletewa hapo vitu za kujifunza.
Yes, so we have a program, and we started this program way back in 2009. And the program is known, telling it plain and simple, sexual and reproductive health rights for people with intellectual disabilities. So in this program, we have like 3 aspects of work that we work on. And the first one is building the capacities of people with intellectual disabilities and their families to understand that first, people with intellectual disabilities have sexual and reproductive health rights, just like any other person in the society. And also telling parents or family members that your son or daughter with an intellectual disability has the same feelings and desires like any other person, and therefore they have to be supported to access sexual and reproductive health rights on an equal basis with others, but also to be supported to form relationships and to nurture their sexual and reproductive health just like any other child, and supporting them just, to have meaningful relationships. Then the third aspect is training service providers to provide accessible services for our target group, and then also linking it to policy and programming in terms of government programming for people with intellectual disabilities to access sexual and reproductive health rights services. So when we talk about accessibility of services for people with intellectual disabilities, you'll find that the services, the way they're provided, they don't respect the rights of people with intellectual disability. Number one, the information is not in easy read formats where people with intellectual disability can, be given a leaflet and they can read about sexual and reproductive health. So you'll find like the Ministry of Health is producing a lot of, information around sexual and reproductive health, or just even private sector producing a lot of information, but they don't make it accessible to our people with intellectual disabilities. And therefore, even if you give them that leaflet that you've written about cervical cancer screening or breast cancer screening or any other services that you're providing, then you're limiting them in understanding what the service is all about and where they can access the service. The number two is the attitudinal barriers that they face when they go to seek sexual and reproductive health services. So when a person with an intellectual disability walks into a service delivery point, the first thing will be like, even you're coming to seek for these services. These services are not for people like you. You should go to maybe a psychiatric hospital. The third challenge is there is this notion that they are either hypersexual or asexual. So hypersexual, and this is a stereotype that people with intellectual disabilities, they really love sex, and therefore they're hypersexual. And then there's another group of thought that thinks they're asexual. So like Joy, she's 28 years old, but people think that she doesn't want to get into any sexual relationship because of her intellectual disability. Then she's not interested in that. So there is those two group of schools, and therefore one of our major work is just to create that awareness that then they're either hypersexual or asexual, but they're just human beings with feelings and desires just like you and me. And then the fourth one, which is quite major and also touches on our policies, is the issue around legal capacity. That people with intellectual disability have no legal capacity to make any decision around their bodies and especially their sexuality, that other people have to make decisions for them. I can say, yes, partly we've been able to tackle. So number one, starting with the trainings for people with intellectual disabilities on sexual and reproductive health rights. We've been able to do a lot of trainings for them. I can proudly say we've had like about 6 or 7 weddings or marriages for people with intellectual disabilities, which have resulted from the trainings that we've carried out through the years.
We use easy to understand language, we use pictures, we use role play, we try to be innovative, we use video, so we do this in a way that makes people with intellectual disabilities feel that they can understand what is being said to them, and that they can then go out and even train other people with intellectual disabilities. So for example, we would start by just like having a safe space within ourselves, telling ourselves that it's okay to speak about certain things that we're going to talk about, and that some things might be triggering and that they might trigger us to feel very anxious and maybe depressed, and that is okay, and that we can now talk about this. We can have even therapy afterwards if someone needs it. So we are kind of setting the space for them. When we met Joy a couple of years ago, over a decade ago, she was very, very much an inward person. I think she's an introvert by just character, but then she was extremely, extremely inward, very introverted. She didn't want to speak much. When we were having our training, she was very shy. She always used to like put her head down here. When you ask her to say her name, she wouldn't even say her name. And then we started doing these trainings over a period of years. It wasn't, she didn't just transform overnight. We started doing social nights where we would go out, because people with intellectual disabilities, they don't even have, they're not even taken to family gatherings, you know? So they don't have interpersonal skills. They don't have to speak with other people. So we started doing these things. We'd go for movie nights, and you would just see the self-advocacy in her when she was speaking with her peers, when asking for support services, whatever she would be doing, you could just feel that there's a difference, something is shifting. And then slowly by slowly, you see there's now a power. It's not even like something different, it's something inward that she believes in herself. She is her own person right now. She speaks up for whatever she wants. It's just a massive shift. And it came about through training, through her having also employment, and through her going out to the field and seeing children with intellectual disabilities and impacting them.
Fundisha wengine wanjue right zao, weze kusimama mbele za watu, weze kujiongelelea.
Interesting conversation, and I was just listening, and I can say I can totally relate to this as a woman with psychosocial disabilities, and especially, and I know many young persons and all persons with disabilities can relate to the issue around consenting for sex, and also at the same time being denied sexual reproductive health services. So I would really like to hear from you in the next conversation around consenting. Can women with disabilities consent to sex? Thank you. The next story is for Esther Mwaneki, a young woman with short stature, who is also a youth advocate.
At first, the word pregnancy could be mentioned, nakimbia tu, and I sikufikiria at one day nitajipata in that state, and I used to fear a lot. So when it came like at first, the word pregnancy could be mentioned, nakimbia tu, and I sikufikiria at one day nitajipata in that state, and I used to fear a lot. So when it came like nimejipata I'm pregnant, nilikuwa na hiyo mixed reaction. Should I be happy? Should I not? Because there was the myths and misconceptions and nilikuwa tunasikia like a woman of short stature, the journey unaweza kosa kumaliza, ama like pia ukimaliza the process, it's a 50-50 for you to survive or for the baby. Yeah, that's the fear that I had for me. So at first I had fear, but every time really take that courage ya kwenda to take the antenatal care, and it was tough. The table itself or the bed itself, it's so high, and like kama ni a male doctor that is there, akuinue, kuna wenye watakuhandle enye zina hautafurahia, that is, and because watakushika place hautafurahia, and others may take that as a chance to mishandle. And also another thing was the communication, and the terms they were using, actually hadi yani unasikia tu vibaya, because to give example with one yenye tu ilinihit, niko like and a doctor said ati enyewe hadi wanaume hawana huruma, and I was like, why? I'm a human, I have feelings like other ladies, and this is my right too. I have a right to be a mother. Yeah, it's my right, it's everyone's right. And other that I won't mention that nilikuwa too that bad. Like we have a group for short stature ladies, and I started the conversation like, for those who have been there, how did they do it? How did they overcome these challenges? First, the communication itself, and also accessing the facilities. So we started a conversation, and they were giving the experience and how they overcame that. And others walifanya tu kimungu-mungu, wali survive tu kimungu-mungu, so that ili inspire a lot. And like nikajua the journey, okay, it's long, but I can take it to be smooth myself. So it came a time, it's my turn to go to the theater. And when I was in the theater, the doctor said like, now I can't handle your case. And now I was in labor pain by then. They forced it because they knew I was going to the CS, but they forced the labor pain. So now I was given a referral to another hospital as an emergency case. Reaching to that hospital, there was like over 100 emergency cases. So I stayed for 3 days without getting the services. But I thank God, after the 3 days I delivered safe, and my baby is so healthy. And now he's 3 years old, and also maybe taller than his mother. It feels nice being called a mother. And my relationship with him is in the bond itself is so strong, and I call him like my security, because even now try to touch me, watakuona wao. Yeah, so I'm happy we love each other, and even though the society itself wanatupea that stigma, like the discrimination, my son himself atakuangalia tu jicho ingine, unashughulika tu na yako. So I'm happy because I see he's a security for me now, and I'm also security for him.
Yeah, beautiful story. And this story shows how persons with disabilities get deprived of their dignity because of the barriers they face and the mental burden that comes with it. Lastly, we have the story from the umbrella organization of organizations of women and girls with disabilities. Jen's story.
Realize that we have a lot of barriers when it comes to accessing sexual and reproductive health. And many people do not understand the sexuality around women with disabilities. A number, or many people believes women with disabilities are asexual. Like they don't need to have a family, they don't need to get married, they can't love, they cannot be loved. When we go to the facilities, health facilities, there are so many questions that you'll be asked. The questions that are not related with what you are presenting, but related to your disability. So once they discover whatever you are seeking is reproductive health services, for instance, maternal health, they start wondering, why that? Why are you troubling yourself with having children? You are a burden. The disability is already burdening you. Why do you want to burden yourself more by getting children? Forgetting these are fundamental rights, entitled to everybody. And the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, chapter 43, says that everybody has a right to access health. Not only access, comprehensive, quality health services. Everybody. So we want everybody to understand that disability does not mean that is the end of jail. That is what I can only do is just to take care of my disability. I'm able to take care of other things. I'm able to take care of a family. We want to demonstrate when we're asking the facilities to be friendly. What is it are we talking about? So where there are stairs and a wheelchair user is not able to go through, we are putting a ramp. So again, you'll find the delivery coach, the examination coaches, they are very high. And so it is very difficult for one, especially if you have a physical disability, to go up without assistance. And we want people to be free when they're accessing these services. So we have provided 2 hospitals in every county with a delivery bed that is adjustable. It can go low for me to go up, and then it can go up for the health service provider to be able to attend to me. We bring everybody who works at the facility, not only the nurses, not only the doctors, but even those people, other non-medical trained staff, everybody, so that they understand the disability. I would say we have achieved, although we still have a lot to do. If you go to Bagathi, you will find those things I've mentioned. You will find friendly staff. If you go to Makadara Health Center, you still find the same, that we have been able to put a toilet, we have been able to put a bed, and the staff are so friendly. They understand the disability. Now the problem comes here. There is a lot of transfer within the government institution. Day in, day out, people are transferred. So you still go and find somebody who was in another facility that we have not been. So when you find them, they will maybe say, no, I don't know anything. I don't know women with disabilities, if they are supposed to come here. They are supposed to go to Kenyatta National Hospital, not Pumwani, because a lot have been say like that. But if you go and find those we have trained, you see that we have done a lot. The government is really trying to ensure that every woman is accessing reproductive health. There are a lot of efforts that have been put around that. There are policies, there are guidelines to provide sexual and reproductive health. But again, even those policies, are they disseminated to the last level of a health facility? Do they understand? The answer is no. We need enough budgeting, because that's why the facility, we say we don't have enough money to buy or to build an extra toilet. My hope is that every woman with a disability will not die because they were unable to access reproductive health. They will not die during delivery. They don't die in the process of the pregnancy. They'll be able to understand what they need to do when they want to be mothers. Everybody having that information.
Mic check. Okay. Amazing stories indeed. We had a comment here, and I promised, and I am back. You still have the comment?
Yes, I still have the comment.
May I hold it for you, or you hold it yourself? Okay.
I still have the comment from the first 3 cases. We have the case whereby a foster father raped somebody, raped her. Yes, in her case, she was lucky because she has a mother who supported her. But in many cases where there is such a rape by a member of the family, it is the girl who ends up being a victim. She's blamed, especially if the father, in this case where the foster father was imprisoned. The girl will be blamed, and she will have nowhere to go. And so, as organizations or friends of the disabled, we need to come up with a very strong support systems that when such a situation arises, we are there for such a person. Then in the case of Kevin, having fear of being rejected by the child. Yeah, Kevin's fear is not alone. We have many of us, especially women with disabilities, who have extreme fear that we give birth and the child ends up rejecting us and walking away. And at such times, we do not know what to do. Because we have many people, many women with disabilities who have given birth and their children have ended up rejecting them. And so mine is just to say, yes, we have such cases. So we have to have very strong counseling mechanisms. We have to have very strong support systems. In case such happens, we are there for such victims. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. A round of applause for her. Thank you very much. I am told that this is where I drop off of the bandwagon, but just want to say one last thing. When you look at all the stories, one thing stood out for me, and the ability for persons with disabilities to advocate for themselves, and hence reinforcing the theme of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities this year, where we are talking about women or persons with disabilities are taking up leadership positions. And I draw this from the story of the girl from Kenyatta University who was able to advocate for herself and for all those other girls with disabilities at her learning institutions. Mr. Collins, back to you.
Awesome. The $1 million voice, Alan Herbert. I'm trying to emulate, but I can't reach there. Right about now, ladies and gentlemen, there are some people who promised me to dance. Can we have a dance? Do we have a dance? Can we have a dance? DJ, I need a quick dance and see, like from my position here, I want to see everyone's move. Munachagua gani? Which one? Baba dance. DJ, kuna kitu inaitwa baba dance. Jairus. That one. Is that one okay? So I welcome Jay the poet to give us a piece as you think of the dance that you want to do. Because we are going to do another session of learning. You see chairs arranged here. I'll be welcoming a panel to give us more insights on the report we're about to learn. Maybe on the documentaries that we've also seen here. But before that, Jay the poet, give us a piece.
Thank you, Collins. Good evening. You guys are good? Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Jay Poetry, and I'm going to do a very short, not short really, but just a short story, and hope it will entertain. So how many used to love wrestling when you were young? Or you still do? Oh, football? So I think those, so this piece is called Things We Die For. I think I wrote this piece because of like the things I used to, enjoy when I was young, or not so young, but a few years ago. So here goes. As a young boy, I'd die for wrestling. Every Sunday afternoons and Tuesday nights, I had something to look forward to. The thrill of The Undertaker, the grand entrances by Triple H, that there was my big show. The square ring was enough. No pressure yet of having to fit one through the finger of someone else's daughter. This was before I experienced of what it means for life to spear you to the edge. Remysterial Mark Henry Marsh, that's why I learned of impossibilities being possible. Design John Cena alikuwa na belief hata matches alikuwa underdog. Before Roman reigned and the big dog kwa tribal chief. In high school, I'd die for football. But the Brazil-Germany 7-1 World Cup match broke my heart. It taught me of losses, that giants too fall. It was probably preparing me for last season's Premier League. You see, I support Chelsea Football Club, so you know why. She was my world. Any contrary view, haungeni show word. How I poured my heart out and like magic imwagika. You know what happens. And now it's a messy game. The match ball is full of thorns and the pitch is slippery and full of mud. So now I die at the track. I've learned running as a skill. Maybe that way I'd avoid self-kill. These words crack open my pains like I find freedom in prisons. Forgot about happiness. Probably just once a while through seasons. So now I die for events like this. For music that's dark, maybe in that moment, my little light can get some little moment of fame, for someone to just know my name, for people like you. The only canvas that allows me paint all my ugly portraits. So you see, sometimes the war is not in the battlefield. It is in this skin. It's not in just wanting to be right or sometimes feeling left out. It is in the in-between feelings, in identities camouflaged in our fears. In those moments, home feels foreign. So si confuse tires na balloons uziweke in one class ati juu zote zina bust. Music, weke Diamond na Hillsong in one mashup juu wote wako na songs ziko titled Hallelujah. Time, haiko determine na movement ya minute hand kwa watches ziko tied kwa wrists. Na hakuna mse alisema kuna offense ya kutake risks, so mbona usialao mse ya kulimit. Wakikuambia uko down, waambie hata apps zote umepitia, simu kona smartphone. So waambie sini wale wase wafupi lakini tumelearn ku stand tall. Waambie sisi ni kings. Wale kings tumegrow up tukiplay na tins za paint ya crown. Waambie sisi ni fighters. Lakini hatuhitaji guns na nguvu za wrestling. Sometimes all we need is inspiration moja, Stone David tumia sling. Waambie ku hang out around Afya Center imenisha wezi fall sick. Na kama we ni mwizi atoebe suitcase ukienda courtroom kesi yako haitakuwa tamu. Mtu ni actions zake uspeak. Juu kama ni jina, si hata bishop upatikana kwa chessboard. So wewe ukienda kwa gym ku bodybuild, mwenyako kando yako labda amekam kukata weight. Color red, kwa wengine inamaanisha love, but hiyo same color sometimes ndio huwa indication ya danger. So mimi na wewe kutembea on one road haimaanishi tunaelekea same destination. So be yourself, cheza kama wewe, na ukumbuke si kila bird fly kwa hewa ni mwewe. Thank you.
An additional round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Maneno ya mdondoka. DJ, you owe us. I told people to dance, and this is the moment. So I want to see everyone making those moves the best that you can. And the dancers who said that that is their hobby, to lead the session. Everyone has a dance. Na watu wasimame hapa. Hey. I will never leave your side. I will never. I dedicate my life. Hey, I want to see people up. Hey, yes. I want to see people up. There's no missing this one. Everyone has to be up. I want to see people up.
I see you online. If they worry me,
and those others that have moves.
I've been ringing on your cellular. Where you at? But enough is settled down. Yeah, I'm hoping you okay. We got to party.
Are you not one of them?
Many just stay for mine. Yeah, me and you do like that. Not my guy. Do Jazzy, my guy. Joey's Zaza. Do transfer yourself. Be my guy. My Joe is my guy. My guy. Rule one is enough. So I call your name when you ask me. That guy is my guy. Jerry's not my guy. Not my guy.
My co-MC is missing here.
MK, I'm just a kid.
Come show people your moves.
Vida Super V, she's my
Ni leo, acha tu niwaweke wazi, mubaki na mishangao kuswa ya mapenzi, nataka kuyaeleza. Na leo,
ladies and gentlemen, my co-MC is coming to give you a dance.
Warushe kwa mitandao, siataki mapenzi, nataka jipongeza. Naimwita yo baby, umenayo na baby, oh nimuna kipenzi, ni mshenza kupendi, ama kwa ni mtihani, mambo mengi dunia na mistressi siwezi, oh siwezi. Bora ni njoni, maisha mafupi ni simple. Yani nini tesekero, yani nini tesekero, kiume na miupozeko, kiume na mimi. Bora ni njoni, maisha mafupi ni simple. Yani nini tesekero. Now that you're
gone, DJ, I can see the moves. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the greatest moves. Kila mtu ajipigie makofi. Where is the loudest? So, ndio maana watu walikuwa wameanza kupata moral hapa ya kuendelea kudance, and yet they were afraid when starting. Asanteni sana. Right about now, I'd love to call upon Joyce UDPK, who's going to moderate a session on the biggest panel discussion here that will take not more than 20 minutes, where we'll again pave way for a reaction, a panel, a plenary session on the panel. So, to join Joyce on stage, we have Madame Jane Kihungi, the director, WCC, Women Challenge to Challenge. Makofi kwake akija kwenye jukwaa. Joining Jane on stage is Madam Fatma Wangare, Director, KAI, Kenya Association for the Intellectually Handicapped. Madam Fatma. Spicing the panel is a voice from a gentleman dubbed Joseph Baraza, LVCT. A touch of the voices from the youth will be represented by Valerie Ojiambo.
Step aside for the game changer.
Finally, joining the panel is Sandra Nyawira Odhiambo.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are enjoying the night. So, before us, I am seeing these faces and I am just amazed because these are great women and a man. And I am so privileged to be sitting amongst them. I am seeing people that I really look up to. So, first we'll start with introductions. And from Jane, please introduce yourself, and then we proceed.
Once again, my name is Jane Kihungi. I work for Women Challenge to Challenge.
Valerie?
My name is Valerie Ojiambo.
Yes, Fatma.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Fatma Wangare from Kai. I'm a mother to a daughter with an intellectual disability.
Thank you. My name is Joseph. I'm deaf. I work at LVCT Health as a disability program officer. Thank you, and I hand over.
Next is Sandra.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Nyawira Odhiambo, working with the United Disabled Persons of Kenya. I'm also a young woman with visual impairment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. So I will jump straight to our questions. And since the women are dominating the panel, I will start with the gentleman. So, Joseph, This goes to you. What is LVCT Health, and what is it doing to remove such barriers for women and girls with disabilities, as we have seen on the videos?
Thank you very much. LVCT Health is a local-based organization, an NGO, that also takes lead in Kenya when it comes to HIV prevention. You're aware that the previous name was Liverpool, but now we shortened the name to LVCT Health. So we do research, we do tests, and other innovations that are in relation to in relation to HIV preventions. We are in about 34 countries. 34 counties, and the organization itself has persons with disability as staff members, as also mobilizers, including the youth. We have all, including the key populations who include LGBTQI. So we also try to not only create equality, but equity to all persons, and also make accessibility possible to those who seek services in our place. Also, we work as a team. We've developed IC materials that also focus on issues of SRH, on gender-based violence, Braille, on other issues that are related to health. And we know that it is hard sometimes to employ individuals. However, we try, like myself, I'm in the disability program, and we also focus on policy advocacy and implementation. Some of you are aware, and we also work together with you.
Thank you. The next question goes to Jane. So we have seen the stories from young persons sharing their lived experiences. And even we have heard one from yourself and the organization. So what more needs to be done?
There's more that needs to be done when it comes to access to sexual and reproductive health, because the barriers are so many. And as Women Challenge to Challenge, as UDPK, really, we are not able to address everywhere. As I said, even in the video, we have worked with facilities like Pumwani, Bagathi, it's a county hospital, and Makadara, that is a sub-county hospital. But we have other facilities because persons with disabilities do not live together. We are spread all over the country. So we need to educate more health workers so that they change their perception. We need to work with the government and especially the Ministry of Health for budgetary purposes. Because when you go to facilities, they tell you, we don't have funds. We don't have funds to do ABCD. These are policy issue. Then they need policy guidelines from the policy makers to do some certain things like data collection tools. To be able to come up with a data collection tool that is disability disaggregated, they are telling us that is a policy issue that needs to be really statement come from the Ministry of Health. And that really needs to be really worked on. And as a sector, as OPDs, we need to advocate for that. Even the census 2019 gave us a very small number of persons with disabilities, unlike what we had 2007. When they say we are 2.2, that translates to 0.9 million. Really, what has happened to the rest of persons with disabilities? We need to advocate for this. Because unless we do that, unless we get accurate data, we will not be able to budget, or the government will not be able to put strategies right to come up with budgets that are really responsive to disability issues. So for me, we need to do more and more advocacy. Advocacy has no end. It is a continuous process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Valerie, you identify as a youth, and a youth with disabilities who also identifies with the LGBTQI community. What would you tell the society about how they perceive you. And especially because of these multiple identities that probably make you face multiple barriers compared to other youth with disabilities.
Thank you. You know that we have many challenges as LGBTQI. I would say that the society itself, many people do not understand. And they also they judge a lot. So it's true. There are many different types of key populations. That is a sign. So we have bisexual, we have gay, among others. So someone does not choose for us. And therefore, I'll say even for intersex, they do not choose themselves, but the society itself has a preconceived judgment about them. So some say that if someone is born with both genders, then what does it mean? They have to go to the hospital and cut or remove one of the organs. But what happens when the person grows and the body itself shows a different type of biology? So you find the society judging them. So I do know that for parents especially, they may leave the child. But for those who are born with both sexual organs, it's good to leave so that and not have the hospital dictate, but let the person grow and the body itself, the biological body itself will be able to decide which chromosome the body takes. And then from there you may be able to know the gender. But if you judge before, then it becomes a problem where someone is stuck in a wrong body. Now, for people who feel that the society does not accept us, it makes it hard also for us to know where to go as a safe space. And therefore, it is better for us, for them, for the society especially, to allow us, not to judge us, not to block us. For Kenya, they also need to understand that we also exist and also try to keep us, not to mix also the sexes, the intersex with the MSM or men who have sex with men. Or yes. So for us, we need to know, for the government, it needs to understand and also need to advocate for acceptance so that, like what I do, advocacy, is to have people be aware that you have persons with disability who are LGBTQI, and for the society to be lenient on us, because we don't want to commit suicide because of a stigma from the society. At the same time, for the parents, there's no need of also hiding, because what happens is that when you hide, you'll have to go outside to look for solace or to look for a place that makes you feel home. So no need to judge. And therefore, to create barriers for us becomes difficult. For example, if I go to seek medical services at the hospital, they will ask, who are you, or what type of gender are you? So instead of using derogatory words, it will be nice to respect me as an individual, so that at least it creates room where there is no stigma from the health service provider, where it finds it difficult to provide services to me, and therefore that is not good. So it's better to focus on the individual, be able to provide the help that is needed and not to judge or provide stigma.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I like that you emphasize on the importance of respecting people even within their diversities. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to go to Sandra. So what is UDPK and what initiatives does UDPK have around sexual reproductive health?
Thank you so much, Joyce. And maybe to start off, and I think one of the barriers to accessing also SRHR services, and this came from the young people, was access of information. So what came out is that young people are not aware of what their sexual reproductive health rights are, or rather most of them. So as an initial step that we took is, of course, capacity building of young people around their sexual reproductive health and rights. You know, them understanding what is bodily autonomy, what are the legal provisions that exist around them accessing SRHR services, the linkage, the pathways around, you know, how they get these services, aspects around also GBV, where do they get like the post-care services and all of that. So a lot of capacity building around rights, around the services and access to them. And that was just the first aspect of it. Then now talking about looking outwards, the society. So having the young people who already had capacity on their rights and had understood that they are individuals who are entitled to sexual reproductive health and rights, then those young people then championed, or rather were at the fore in advocating for these rights. So we did have, or rather we continuously have young people within digital spaces, within physical spaces, engaging with the communities, challenging these stereotypes that exist around persons with disabilities being asexual. So them sharing their lived experiences, them sharing their lived experiences around accessing SRHR services and what that has looked like is really going a step ahead in sort of changing some of these norms, you know. And we've heard from the stories that we've heard from the videos where, you know, stories from Esther Mwaniki and Faith Kioko, you know, those experiences and how they use those to sort of change mindsets within societies. And while interacting with healthcare service providers, we do realize that, you know, the more still needs to be done, but then there's some shift that has happened in specific areas. So talking about a lot of capacity building, and then as well engaging within the policy space. So we do realize that, you know, for things to actually get done, then all of these things have to be written down somewhere. So looking at our policies around sexual reproductive health and rights and how inclusive are they. So also engagement of young people within these spaces, you know, having them get to analyze policies and identify the gaps, and of course provide possible solutions. Like we had young people engaging in the adolescents and young people reproductive health policy. You know, so what are the issues? Previously it was silent on issues disability, but then young people were able to bring that out and actually do a memoranda on that. Also looking at the Persons with Disabilities National Policy that is ongoing and almost at the tail end. So what are the issues around, what are the health issues and how do they affect access to SRHR rights for young people? They also had inputs on that. And the fact that young people are now becoming more open, young people are voicing this out, and young people have the right information to challenge these stereotypes, and actually them understanding that reasonable accommodation is a right. So when they're asking for example, sign language interpreters in health facilities, then that is a right. But then now them engaging with duty bearers, them engaging with policymakers to sort of have conversations around how do we make this better. But then something that has also come up is the need to have, you know, for this to be like a collective action. You know, it's not just persons with disabilities, but then when we say disability rights are human rights, then also for us within this space, you know, the organizations that are here and some of you whom we have partnered with, then taking that collective approach to sort of champion for the rights of persons with disabilities and specifically young people, so that in our spaces, when we are talking about access to maternal health care for women, then young women with disabilities are part of that demographic. When we are talking about access to information, let's say on contraceptions, then young people with disabilities are part of that. So it's been a lot of networking with also CSOs within the network for us to have, a systemic change so that it's not just persons with disabilities or UDPK and OPDs voicing for these needs, but how do we as a collective push the agenda around inclusive SRHR services for young people and persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy, for also highlighting the power of partnership and working in collaboration. Next, I'll go to Fatma. If there is one key policy change you'd like to see implemented immediately, what would it be and why?
I will straight go to legal capacity. And the reason is that when we talk about sexual and reproductive health rights and looking at, women with intellectual disabilities, autistic women, women with psychosocial disability, that's the biggest barrier that women with disabilities from underrepresented groups face. So legal capacity, that's Article 12 of the Convention. And Article 12 clearly states that all persons with all disabilities have a legal capacity. And then number 2, it says that there are some groups of people with disabilities who might have difficulty in exercising their legal capacity, but then there is a remedy. They should be supported to make decisions that affect their life. However, when it comes to women from underrepresented groups of people with disabilities, what we see, it is the complete stripping of their legal capacity. So they'll always be looked at as children, yeah? And this really affects their personhood. So can you imagine you carrying a pregnancy to full term, then when you deliver a baby, that baby is taken away on the basis that you don't have capacity to take care of your baby. The baby is given away. When you get pregnant and maybe you decide you don't want to keep the pregnancy, other people around you will make decisions about your pregnancy and not yourself. Yeah? Because you are not a person, you are there to be seen and not to be heard. Yet we know from statistics is that women with intellectual disabilities, autistic women, women with psychosocial disabilities, and also deafblind, face sexual and gender-based violence 4 to 10 times more than their peers with other disabilities and women without disabilities. So they are easy target for perpetrators. We know all that in our communities. We see it happening. There was a time back, Kai did a baseline survey in one of the sub-counties in Siaya. And out of the 50 women with intellectual disabilities that we reached, 35% had been either raped. Some of them, they said it was more than 4 times, some of them more than 5 times. Yeah? A few said they had consented to. So the 35, they all had sexual transmitted infection, including being infected with HIV. 2 of them were pregnant. When we interrogated further, they said, number 1, they didn't know that they were sick. Some of them said, we kept on smelling ourselves and we could smell this bad smell. We have sores and all that. But they didn't know much. So interrogating further, they said, even comprehensive sexuality education in schools is not provided to them. When other children are being taught about their sexuality, they're normally told to go home. Or, kesho nyinyi msikuje, sasa mnajua hii masomo ya kesho haiwahusu. So it starts right from a very early age where you are excluded because of your disability and you're told, don't come, this doesn't affect you. But yet we see all these sorts of, sexual and reproductive health issues that are coming out very strongly. And then people say, these disabilities are quite complex. We don't know. We don't know what to do. We don't know what supports to give to them. And therefore, they're just left there to be seen, as I said, and not to be heard. When you talk about representation of women with intellectual disabilities, women with psychosocial disabilities or autistic women, they fall in the cracks, both within the women with disabilities organizations and also mainstream women rights organizations. So we see a lot of intersecting multiple discrimination on the basis of gender and disability, and this is because they're perceived not to have a voice, or they don't know. They don't know what they want, they don't know what to do with their bodies, they just don't know. And other people are supposed to speak on their behalf and not themselves.
Thank you so much. I was hoping for that answer because I know legal capacity, I feel legal capacity is one of the, it's not discussed enough. It's not discussed enough because I can't count the number of times my mom said to me, do not forget your child at the stage. Right. At least she never thought the baby should be taken away from me, right? But every time another person also asks me, so your child will have that condition, and I know what that means, right? Yeah. So anyways, I have so many questions that I will not ask. I want to give this opportunity to the audience to ask questions, if there are any, and then we will do our closing remarks. Looking at the time, we need to close up. Any questions? Comments?
Thank you very much, panelists. My name is Masharia, and I just want to affirm what Fatma has said. That for us to realize legal capacity for all, we have to begin questioning some of the cultural and religious beliefs that we have been ascribed into. Because how we grew up, some of the communities, like which I come from, it's like at some level, especially when you are graduating through initiation, it's somehow like we are taught on how to mishandle or treat men like objects. But then one had to get cultured through the hard way to learn that women and men are one and the same. Actually, the only difference between a man and a woman is the hormonal difference. And every man has a woman in him, and every woman has a man in him. So I cannot imagine how a parent will lock the daughter in a single room for days, for weeks, without services like toilet facility, no access to light, no access to maybe taking a shower, no communication with other people, because they feel like they want, if she's let out of that cage, she's going to sleep with a man and bring forth children. On the other hand, issues of forced sterilization to curb incidences of pregnancy, and yet the perpetrators or the men responsible, nobody ever takes a step on them. So I think we have to rise above those standards of cultural and religious beliefs so that everyone is accorded their right to the legal capacity. Thank you very much.
Mine is a comment, it's not a question. And I want to go back to what Jen mentioned about the absence of the voices of persons with disabilities and their representative organizations and the development of health sector policies and laws, and how that impacts the experiences that have been shared in this room. And to mention that one of the things that the WHO report talked about when it was releasing its report around health equity of persons with disabilities was that the exclusion of persons with disabilities is what results to what we see now, the stories that we hear. the stories that we hear that the experiences of women with disabilities in health facilities in the communities are horrifying, and that they are denied services. And to this end, one of the questions that has not really been answered is about how does the active and meaningful participation of women with disabilities and girls with disabilities in health sector processes look like? Before we get to seek the services, who decides how these services looks like? Who decides how these programs should be designed? And I want to just invite every woman with disability, every organization of organizations of women with disabilities in this room, to watch out for International Disability Summit that is coming up as a contribution of a report that we are working on guaranteeing health equity of women with disabilities, including sexual and reproductive health, through meaningful and active participation of women with disabilities in health sector processes. So we want to really understand why is it that the voices are not being heard? And if they're being heard, why are they not being implemented? Thank you very much.
If there are no more questions,
hello, good evening. It is late, but I really want to commend UDPK for this event. And I'm speaking as having been a chair of UDPK for about 5 years. And I can see the tremendous achievement and how UDPK has matured. I just want to encourage young persons with disabilities, in particular women with disabilities. Courage is a critical thing, because if we don't advocate, if we are not visible as women ourselves, if we can't stick our necks like the cases that have been presented here, we will not be able to make a breakthrough. It will be a vicious cycle. When we began activism over 40 years ago, because we are the initiators of the Persons with Disabilities Act, we were as young as you are, and I tell you, we were as hot as fire. But along the way, we are now again going through the same cycle. We have young people repeating the stories which we told then, and we made the society see that we had, as people, we had our human rights. Let us be courageous and be consistent and be persistent that as women, we are not going to be lumped together in that blanket of persons with disabilities. We want our identity. We are women and we are girls, and how we face disability is very differently from how men live with disability. With that in mind, and the fact that you are young, you have 40 years ahead of you, you'll be able to make breakthrough, and change will be seen. It will no longer be stories. Then my question is to Kai. When you give an example that you have had to train for about 10 years or so, and there's success stories that there are about 7 or so women or girls or men who have married, and it is because of legal capacity or acceptance or being advocates themselves. The question is, are these marriages the person with the mental or psychical disability to themselves, or is it to the able community? Are they arranged marriages to have a name that they are married, but they are being abused in that marriage? Is it being exploited? Or is it a marriage that will again end up in increasing the population of persons with disabilities, because we know there are some disabilities that are inherited. So emphasis on marriage is not the in thing. The in thing is this individual with a disability, this woman, this girl with a disability, to be capacitated to be able to speak for themselves, to live independently themselves, never to think to be taken to an institute. Oh, so thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Great.
Just
Great insights. Do we have another question? Do we have a response?
Fatma, do you want to respond to that? Then we can do our parting shots.
Okay. So, as it was shown in the video, yes, we do a lot of capacity building for young people with intellectual disability. And part of it also is just to nurture them to start meaningful relationships in their own communities. One thing that we don't, how can I put it? We don't dictate is to tell them that you have to get a partner with an intellectual disability like you. So just like you and me, we have the right and the freedom to choose our own spouses. And this is what happens to them also. Yeah. Of course, there are times when families come to say, can we do arranged marriages? But this is not a route that we normally take. So for the ones who've gotten married, I think 3 got married to people with intellectual disabilities like themselves, but the others, they chose their own spouses. And then also in the marriages, and we know this from our own experiences, it is not a guarantee. Yeah? You might last in a marriage, you might get married and it doesn't work and you have to part ways. It is also the same for people with intellectual disabilities. So it can either work or it doesn't. But what I know is that families really support. After the couple gets married, families come in to support as much as they can. Yeah, just to give advice and direction and all that. Of course, there are issues around safeguarding, but then again, safeguarding applies to all of us. I cannot just say that, safeguarding will only apply to certain groups of people with disabilities. It applies to all of us. So we've had situations where, the couples have been married and they've decided we are parting ways. And we respect that because they came together and they lived for some time and they decided it doesn't work, we are parting ways. But there are some who are married up today. And it's working. So, yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you, Fatma. And of course, even women without disabilities go through abusive marriages. So it's not just persons with disabilities. We are out of time. I know this is a very interesting conversation. Personally, I would want to go on, but our time is limited. So I would like to give an opportunity to Valerie to just give a call to action. What can we do? What should be done about everything that we have discussed about today?
Yeah, the question is being rephrased so that you can understand. She
Okay.
said we need to accept everyone, especially persons with disability, and be able to know that we are there, accept us when you meet us. Even though we come out and talk about ourselves, do not judge first. Wait for us to be able to express ourselves, and don't be direct to be quick to judge. Be quick to listen. And for our youth, I'll say many people, especially those who are hearing, need to know that we are there. They need also to advocate to the government to be able to provide this as well for us, especially for women. When they become pregnant and they want to see this, then they should be able to be allowed to seek the services that they need. For intersex, I'll reiterate that they need to wait so that they be able to understand which body or which type of gender the body itself will be able to give. However, for services, we need to provide equal services to everyone. I'll also repeat that it's good when they meet with us, not to be barriers, and to accept us as we are. That is what I'll say, to be able to accept all key populations that are there. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Jane, one word. I know, one word, 2 words, 3, but briefly.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But let's remember that our reproductive health needs are the same as of those women with disabilities. So let's go out and demand for them. It is our right.
Thank you. Fatma?
For me, I will say there is no health without accessible and inclusive sexual and reproductive health services. And when we talk about accessibility, we need to be broad and think about, physical accessibility, information accessibility, communication accessibility, and also advocate for support services to be made accessible in the health facilities.
Thank you. Joseph, briefly.
Because of time, I'll say, for me, I'd like to say, in short, one point, and to be direct, that my path, and what I want is that I'd like to hear what the person with disability wants is what they get. Where people are making decisions, we need to be there. If it is a decision that reflects on the youth, a youth person needs to be on the table. Do not speak for them by having an old person on the table. The second thing is that my health I have a right to access medical health just like anyone else. So I would say the health, my right to access good health is also a human right, just like for everyone else. And finally, please, I'd like to request, especially the government, to try and see, at least if when they get funds, to be able to share with the organizations, because I do know there is plethorage of funds that are there, because it is usually mixed with politics and does not benefit us, persons with disability. So we do not get the health needs that is required. Therefore, equity for all.
Thank you, Joseph. And finally, to our host, Sandra.
I think, and I cannot belabor on this enough, and it has been mentioned, there needs to be meaningful engagement of persons with disabilities and their representative organizations in these discussions. And we can see that they're doing a lot from the stories that we've had, what CAI is doing, what WCC is doing, and many other organizations of persons with disabilities. So how do we meaningfully engage them as partners in the room within this space? How do we engage organizations of persons with disabilities to sort of co-create solutions around making SRHR services accessible to persons with disabilities? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, from me, I hope we continue this conversation outside these walls, and as my good friend Marianne says, put it into practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know all has been said. I don't want to add, but to our panelists, kindly remain seated as we call on more people on the stage. We are not taking over the food. I know it is there, it is ready. But to the maiden activity of today's session is the launch of the report Not Yet Equal, a story of Kenyan women with disabilities and the ongoing struggles for inclusion 30 years after the Beijing Declaration. So, ladies and gentlemen, my co-MC, who do we have on stage and who is yet to join so that we launch this great report and advocate for inclusion of women in Kenya? So as they come, I'd also request that members of the panel be standing so that we create more space for other organizations to join you in the launch of this report. It's going to be big. Somebody help me remove these seats. Co-MC, who else?
Kefado, a representative from Kefado. Can you move
Kefiado.
forward?
Who else?
VSO, a representative from VSO.
A representation from VSO.
A representative from AIDA.
A representative from AIDA.
A representative from KAI. I know we have one.
There is KAI on stage.
We have WCC.
We have WCC.
We have UDPK.
We have UDPK here.
Do we have COVA?
Kovau. Karibuni sana. And could the reports be brought here in numbers so that we launch what we are holding? We can't launch things that are outside. Great. And can everyone have a copy of the report? The best thing about being an MC is that you access spaces, commodities, rooms. I know maybe I've even taken dinner. Hapana, mimi sijakula. Ama kwa MC umekula?
Bado.
Sijakuona hapa sana. Unaweza kuwa uli access food. So, the great report is gonna be launched now. But before that, Jen, could you speak of the contents of the report in 1 minute?
Could I give this opportunity to somebody else, like Kova? We did the report together, and we have not heard their voice. And they have really worked hard on this. So I would ask Julie, on my behalf, to say what is in the report.
Judy.
Hello, everyone. Maybe I'll just take at least 1 minute to just explain what the report is about. Kenya is currently going to report on what it has done on 12 critical areas to address issues of women in general in Kenya. And we felt like oftentimes the rights of women with disabilities are overlooked and some issues are not adequately covered in Kenya's report. So because of this, we took a research on the 12 critical areas of which we are going to report to the CSW 69 happening next year in March in New York. And so this one is just to tell Kenyans and everyone out there that there is still much to be done. We are not yet tired, and there is a lot to be done. And this report here represents just a small fraction of the voices of women with disabilities. I wish we could have done more. I wish we could have get more views, but this is just one step to the direction that we want to take in holding our government accountable in order to realize the rights of women and girls with disabilities. Thank you.
Great. And those are the insights of the contents in the report. Grab a copy. You don't have to pay for it. Go read. So we're going to do a countdown, ladies and gentlemen, and I know most of you have the copy and they are still circulating. So we're going to do a countdown, and at the end of the countdown, I want to see everyone shouting and holding their copies high in show that we need inclusion. DJ, where is the countdown? 5, countdown 4, countdown 2, 3, 1, hurry! We launch the report!
feet and dance to the moon. So anyone else who'd want to grab a photo with the members who are on stage to join them for quick photos. I know we're going to serve our food. We'll serve our food and come back here so that the rest of the program can ensure while we enjoy our dinner. So those who want to grab a photo with the members on stage, this is the opportunity. Ni nani huyu anatamani kupiga picha? Join them, join them, join them. Join them. Join them. Join them. Some of you are doing selfies.
Bitamkai ya mapiano inabidi umeibembeleza. Kama neno mob ama ukimbie man si utaipoteza. Haitaki hasira pole pole beat ni kuibembeleza. Hii ni tofauti man, hii ni ya hembeneza. Anguka nayo.
Erica, could we see you at the exit door here? So guys, Erica, give away the copies you are holding. Erica, come with milk cards. People are hungry.
Mnakoseanga sana. Unaepa church akikubariki mnapoteanga sana. Ujacheza gospel tumeweka tiki mnazoeanga sana. Kwa Yesu niko fiti shetani anishiki na mchoreanga sana.
Cha cha cha. Vibes zimejaa ja ja ja. Hapa tuna pa 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 pa. Shoot Satan pa pa pa.
Bitamkai ya mapiano inabidi umeibembeleza. Kama neno mob ama ukimbie man si utaipoteza. Haitaki hasira pole pole beat ni kuibembeleza. Hii ni tofauti man, hii ni ya hembeneza. Anguka nayo.
You know. What if you don't know? I don't know.
Everyone, serve. After you serve, come back, settle, so that we continue the program to its close. I know we have closing remarks and 2 individuals to speak. So you have a meal card, you have a pass to grab your food and come back and sit.
Premium or not.
So Erica will be distributing milk cards. Make sure you see Erica. Erica, raise your hands.
If you know, you know. What if you don't know? I don't know.
Now you know. Now you know. If you know, you know. The big ballers in town. Now you know. Now you know. Never get boo. Forget what they know them. Yes. Agba baller. How much is money? Ballin'. Premium or nothing. Now you know. Now you know. Now you know. Now you know. Never get boo. Forget what they know them. Yes. See as we day like beans and rice. I will never leave your side. I will never, never go. I dedicate my time to you, my guy. Even if the road be rough, I don't mind. 'Cause you be my G for life.
As I never see you online, it they worry me and it they give me consign. Yeah, I be ringing on your cellular. Where you at? My body no fit settle down. Yeah, I'm hoping you okay. We got to party tonight. Many just stay for mine. Yeah, me and you they like they're not my guy. Don't jazzy my guy. Joey's us. I do transfer. You self be my guy. My Joe is my guy. My guy. Sorry, one is enough. So I call your name when I ask me who you Gee, that guy is my guy. Jerry's not my guy, not my guy. MK and Jumke for life. Vina Super V, she's my good.
I dedicate my time.
Yeah, Chiefy Cuckoo. Someone from Ghana. B7, be my guy. You be my G, be my G.
Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. Cause I did yeah with my guys. I got plenty for my mind. But right now I'm with my guys. I don't fear them got my back. Sure you don't see my formation. I call out big combination. Steady inspiration. I'm 100 concentration. When my guys them roll out. Bad energy far away. I thank God for my real G. Good friends don't be money.